Hello, it's Rich Rosen, founder and CEO of Fastcall, and I'm going to talk for a few minutes about how we manage users and our subscription in Fastcall. So I'm looking at the our settings homepage in Fastcall. The application has been installed. I'm going to try to cover the basics up front on this video, and then later on get into some of the more specific details about managing subscriptions in Salesforce. So I want to show you a few things while you're logged in. So my user is an admin, so I see our admin settings. I also see my own user settings. If you are an admin that's also a user, you should see both. If you are an admin who is not also a user, you're going to still see my settings, but you just might not be using them quite as much. So inside the application, you're going to see a user panel where we list the users in the org, and you'll notice that I have 4 users in this org, but one of them says broken, and we'll get to that in a second. And then down here at the bottom, we see some information about the Fastcall subscription. So inside the Fastcall subscription, there's going to be an important link to my account that we'll get to in a second. There's also a link here to our release notes, and um, the licensing is billing is detailed here. So you'll see here the addition. There are 5 total licenses for users. One will always be used by the site guest user. So in this particular org, there are 0 available, and I'll show you how we sort of manage that. And we're going to look here in a second how we purchase additional licenses. Fastcall as a native application does use capabilities. So these are set in the application. You'll see those here, but that's the subject of another video. Okay, so we're going to pop back over to our user panel. We see there's 4 users, and in our subscription, it tells us we have 4 users. So this user says broken. So let's just take a look at that. So there's a message here that says this user does not have a license. Okay, now this user does not have a license. If I click here, we will automatically give this user a license, and let's just go ahead and do that. Okay, so it tells us we're trying to assign more licenses than we have available. So we're going to have to go purchase a license. So I'm just going to click out of this error message, and I'm going to come back over to our user panel. So we're going to do one of 2 things. We do hope that you add more licenses, of course, but in this case, I do have a user here. I just want to also show you, since we're talking about this, what it's like to release a user. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to release this user, and the user is released. Okay, so now I have 3 users. I just want to also show you what will happen if I did try to release this user. So this user doesn't have a license, but he is in a bunch of groups. So if I try to release this user, I'm going to get an error message, because the application is not going to let you release a user if that user still has any phones pointed to that user, or they're in any groups. So this user does not have a license, so they're not using the license, but they're still listed here, and they can actually be removed from the Fastcall list of users until we've gone in and done some cleanup work to take that user out of the group, and if that user has any phones assigned, unassign any of those phones. Nothing harmful for leaving the users here, but you'll just see a message that says broken. So I'm going to add another user. I'm going to click the little plus here. Let's see, we had Antonio last time. This time we'll add Francisco. So we're going to go through your org. I'll just click that again. We are going to go through your org, list all of your users, Salesforce users, and you just pick one to add. So I'll cancel that. Okay, so we now have 4 users. We have 4 licenses available. If I do need to purchase another license, and Salesforce expects you to do that in 2 separate steps. So right here, I'm managing our licenses. Licenses are available. They can be assigned. They're assigned to the users, and I'm going to show you. I'm going to do it now. I want to show you where they are assigned. So now I'm back in Salesforce. I'm going to type in user. I'm going to go to the user record. You've all seen this. These are your Salesforce user records. I'll come down here to my user record. And on the Salesforce user record, Fastcall will automatically assign three things. We're going to assign the call center file, which is the open CTI file, which we've defined, and we assign that automatically. You can do this by hand as well, directly on the Salesforce user record if you wished. As a quick side note, you can have as many OpenCTI phones installed in Salesforce as you want, but each user can only have one call center file on the user record. So not that we want you to do that, but if this user was using another OpenCTI app or even just testing, you would just, they would swap the call center file here. Permission sets. So we use permission sets for the user, for the admin, and that's what determines if this user is an admin or a user. I have both. If you mistakenly remove the admin from Fastcall settings and you need to add it back here, you would do that directly on the Salesforce user record. And then the last here, all the way down at the bottom of the page, is the license, which is assigned. So each Salesforce user has a license, permission sets, and call center file. And just since we're in here into the Salesforce section, I want to show you, I typed in packages. Under installed packages, you are going to see all of the packages that you've installed in Salesforce. Here's Fastcall. I can click on Manage Licenses, and you're going to see in Salesforce the licensed users for that package. You will notice that there are 3 users here. There is a fourth license, or there is a single license used by the site guest user, which you assigned when you set up the application under the site. The site requires a license. You can't remove it. So that's, and they don't show it when you type into packages. So the Fastcall site here has a license. Salesforce does not show that when you're looking at your packages. It's kind of confusing, but they don't. Okay, so where were we? So, so I'm going to pop back over here. So we have our 4 users. We need to add another user. So if I came in here and I try to, let's say, well, this add Antonio back. I tried to add him back in. I'm actually going to get a message that says you need to go add licenses. So, and I'm going to do that here under my account. So when you go into my account, this is a Salesforce page, and this is where Salesforce is listing also all of the applications you've installed. So Salesforce lists your applications both under my account, but also under packages. They're sort of 2 different places, and you might notice they're actually may not sort of map up one-to-one, but this is where Salesforce in the App Exchange expects you to manage your subscriptions. And you'll notice, for example, it just happens to be LinkedIn. LinkedIn's paid, but I click in here, there's no option to manage the subscription in Salesforce because LinkedIn is not native, and I don't pay for LinkedIn in Salesforce. But Fastcall, which for some particular reason Salesforce does not think I have installed, is going to be managed here. Now, unfortunately, because I've installed Fastcall so long ago, the subscription is not really the way you're going to see it because Salesforce doesn't actually think it's installed, but you will see an option to manage your subscription. And this page is somewhat new in Salesforce, but this is where you are managing your subscription in the App Exchange. You will have an option to edit your credit card, and you will see all of your payment history here. In my org, just again, because of some complications, because the application's been installed for so long, Salesforce kind of broke this. So I'm actually not going to see the option to edit the credit card, but you will. I would actually have to end the subscription and reinstall the application to kind of get this back to where it needs to be, but it's our own internal setup, and I don't pay for it. But you will see a page that looks like this with your credit card, and you are going to come into this page and you're going to buy an additional subscriptions, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it needs to be, and you're going to add those here. And then once you've added those subscriptions here or reduced, and you can edit your credit card here, you'll see some option over here to edit the credit card. Once you've done that and you pop back into Fastcall, you'll see the total licenses have increased and you'll have licenses that are available. So there's 2 steps here. You're going to purchase the subscriptions, you're going to assign the licenses. The same is true for reducing and uninstalling. You have to do both, and Salesforce expects you to do both. If you unassign all the licenses but don't end the subscription, Salesforce will continue to bill you. Salesforce manages billing for Fastcall. We use something called Salesforce Checkout, which is a Salesforce application for partners. Not all partners use Checkout. Not all partners are native. We are both. We are native and we use Checkout. So Salesforce does expect you to do both and manage both of those steps inside of Salesforce. Okay, so where are we? We talked about the subscription. We talked about users. So our users are listed here. I can add users. I can remove users. If a user has a bunch of stuff going on, like phone numbers and groups and ACD, we're not going to let you delete that user. If you do need to look at that user's profile, I click here, and this is actually where we're going to take you now, and I'm now seeing those settings as that particular user. So if I now log here, I'm actually going to be seeing these settings as is that particular user. So I'm now looking at those users, those settings as this user, and I'm going to see the devices and the inbound routing that's associated with that user. And then if I need to log back out, you'll see up here, I go back to the admin view. And that's how, as an admin, we look at our particular user settings. Most settings are managed as an admin here, but the individual user settings are managed as a user. Okay, and generally we would expect the user to manage her own settings, but if you as an admin do need to come in and manage any of the user settings for the user, you do that by saying change to user profile. Okay, so that was a good overview of managing users. In Fastcall, we talked about subscriptions, we talked about licenses, we looked at the Salesforce user record. Some of the setup again is available in Salesforce, but we will manage all this for you in Fastcall. But there is some things going on inside of Salesforce that you can take a peek under the hood if you do need to. Have any additional questions? Shoot us an email, support@fastcall.com, and we hope that the video was helpful.